Hi guys, and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be talking on the downside of marrying a very successful man. Whoa. You see, a lot of ladies have it misunderstood because they think that the way you act towards an average man or a man who is below average is the same characteristics you bring to the table with a man who is successful. And when I say successful, I'm talking about a man who is financially in a different level. You know, we're talking about those guys who are extremely wealthy. That's one of the criteria, not the only criteria, but those guys who are extremely wealthy, those guys who have strong ties, strong network, be it government ties, be it men who are in a certain level, who are in a certain circle. Usually people who are in that circle are high-end business executives, business moguls, people who are high-earning individuals who know each other, who are, in this part of Africa, we call them the big men. The Dangotes of this world, the Otedolas of this world, and not just in that bracket, but slightly lower as well. I'm just using Dangotes and Otedolas as, okay, that's the peak of it. But there's also people who are lower than that level, who are also considered high quality men, high value men, or very successful men. You're talking about maybe bank managers, bank directors, CEOs, those guys who are at that level. In this part, I would say a man who will fall into that category financial wise is a man who probably earns anywhere from a man who earns, I would say, give or take, over, let me say, 2 million naira, over 2 million naira a month. A man who earns over 2 million naira a month, he's on his way to that level. So I'll say the starting point is from 2 million naira a month, which not a lot of people earn, but I would start from that level financially. Again, a man is not considered successful just based on his finances alone, but that is one of the key ingredients that make him a successful or a high quality man. Because you cannot be high quality or successful without having money, because money is a key ingredient. Some of the other ingredients that we'll talk about is, a man that doesn't have to tell you what he's doing. Somebody who, when you see, you already know who he is. You don't have to explain. Somebody who has to tell you that he's a king is not a king. Most of us, if we see Dangote on the road now, we already know who he is. That's if we get to see him, because to be honest, not be all of us go see Dangote. If you see people like Otedola in a public place, you already know who he is. If you see people like Tony Lumelu, you already know who he is. You don't need someone to tell you who he is. If you see those kind of men, but I'm talking about men who have worked their way from the bottom to the top in the ladder of success. People who you don't need to call their name twice before you know that they're successful. Moving on, those kind of men, we're talking about the downsides of either being in a long-term relationship or marrying those kind of men. You see, men like that are very demanding, and that is something a lot of women do not know. They are extremely demanding, and they are very disciplined. If you are going into a relationship or marrying those kind of people, again, people will ask me how I know this. I know this based on people who I've spoken to. I know this based on from family members. One of the two people I know in my family who are extremely high net worth, very rich individuals and high value. And I'll tell you one thing about those kind of men. They are very busy. They are extremely busy. I remember one time I went to see an uncle of mine in his office. And I think I got to the office around 1 p.m. afternoon. So usually when I go see him, I'll knock the door, and then if I open his office door, I put my head in, he will give me the sign to come in or not to come in. So when I looked in, he said no, that he's busy. He was in front of his computer. So I knew he was very busy, so I left. And then I came back around 6 in the evening, and I knocked. I opened the door, I put my head in, and he looked at me. He was still sitting in that same position, still working. Meanwhile, they had already brought his food. His food was already on the table, but he hadn't gone to take his food yet. So I put my head out and I went to stay with his personal assistant. And then when he got to 8, I knocked again and put my head in. He was still there. He gave me the look that don't come in. I'm like, geez. Up until 8:45 to 9, that was when he called his personal assistant that I should come into the office. That was when he was just getting up from the table he was to go and sit down to try and eat something. The point I'm trying to make is this. From 1 p.m. till 8:45, this man who is a billionaire did not go and look at food. He was right there on the table working like a dog. Meanwhile, most of us from 1 p.m. to 8, we've already eaten maybe 3 meals, some people 4 meals. It's not about the food, it's about the pattern. These people are extremely busy and their time is like money to them. The point I'm trying to draw out of this is a man who is that rich, wealthy, successful, who is that disciplined about his time, will not waste his time. And you as a woman who says you want a man like that would understand that you would not get so much time out of this man because they have a pattern, they have a way they live their life, they have a way they go about things they do. They have thousands of people on their payroll they need to think of. They have people who they pay every month. They have families that they keep together. Let's not forget that these people that they pay also have families, also have relatives, those relatives also have relatives. So they have so many people that is tied to them. So many people's source of livelihood that is tied to them. How do you expect that kind of a man to be able to give you all his time when his time is set up on making money? So that ties perfectly to what I'm going to say now. Time. Those men don't have a lot of time. You would be lucky to get some time from him. You would be very lucky. So for those ladies who are looking for extremely rich, extremely successful, extremely high value man, you have to know that you are not going to get so much time from him because these men are extremely busy. They are extremely busy. And 9 times out of 10, you probably wouldn't even see them so often. So that's another thing to consider. If you're a woman who doesn't really need his time, or if you're a woman who doesn't need to be around him that much, I would wonder why you wouldn't want to be around him that much if you love him. But then that's left for you. But if you're a woman who wants a man who will give her all her time, be there for her, and always call her and always be around her, then probably you need to have a reassessment of what you want and the kind of man you want. Because these very successful men, their time is married to their work and their business. Another thing again that a lot of women have misunderstood is to say a very successful man would be somebody who would always be sexually involved with them. They will always have sex 24/7. They will always have sex maybe 3 times a week, and these men, like I said, are married to their business or their work. A lot of the time they are moving from state to state, country to country. As in, I remember times where even this my uncle, I would message him. Maybe I saw him like days before, and then I message him after some days like, you said I should see you XYZ, and then he will message me back and say, oh sorry, we can't see today, I'm in China. I'm like, but I just saw him 2 days ago. That's the thing. These are men who are always on the move. So imagine a man who is in China today, and then the next day he's in the US, and then the next day he's in another place. These are men who are, the way they move is business is their life. So don't think that they are going to come home after such a long, stressful business trip, and then they are going to all of a sudden turn into Lexington Steel and start laying the pipe like they are some porn star. So something has to give. That energy that he's not going to be able to give you on the bed, you're getting it in monetary value. You're buying all the Birkin bags, you're getting everything else you want. You're getting everything you want, you get it. but you're not going to be able to get him. You'll be lucky if he gives you 2 minutes of his time sexually. He gives you 2 minutes, you should be grateful, because that's how they are. They are extremely, their mind and their spirit is tied to their work, you know, and people they have to support. So that's that. Another thing that I would love to bring up here is the issue of when people say they want a man who would always call them, always text them, always check up on them. Those kind of men don't really have the luxury of that kind of time. Yes, they might be able to check up on you every now and then, but they are extremely busy. Extremely busy. So for the most part, you're going to be by yourself a lot. Yes, you'll be in the mansion. Yes, you would be you'll be in the Bentley. Yes, you'll be in the nice car. But a lot of the time, you would be by yourself. Women need to understand what they want out of a relationship or what they want out of a marriage. A lot of people just run into it and say, because my needs will be met, my financial needs will be met. It's not just down to that. You have certain needs that you want. Also, most importantly, before I forget to mention, the man himself has demands. A man who is very successful, I'll tell you, is more demanding than a man who is not that successful. An average man might bend in terms of his needs and his wants. But a very successful, wealthy man, the man they call a high value man, those men are very demanding. They have demands and you have to meet those demands. People might be like, how? You don't expect a regular guy. Okay, you see a regular guy here and you see a very successful guy here. It's only natural that the very successful guy will have more demands because he's in demand. Everybody wants him. A very successful man who has all the resources in the world is wanted by everybody. He's wanted by most people. Let me not say everybody, but most people. So he has options. He walks into a place, women want him. So he has the pick of the best. So for him to bring you into his domain, you have to meet those demands. And I dare say some of those demands are very ridiculously strict. You know, they expect you to have to not be overweight. They expect you to be submissive to the core, cooperative to the core. A lot of them don't even want you to work. So you are just what most of them will call a trophy wife. And then he chooses when to take you to a public event or not. He might decide no. So they are very, in their nature, because they've had to struggle and dominate in their field, they are a bit dominating in character, in nature. I'm not saying abusive, but that's just who they are. Whatever they say has to stand. So there's every possibility that your opinion might not really count, because most very successful men are egocentric. They have an ego in a good way because they are better than most. And we men understand that in the masculine realm and territory, there's hierarchy. There's a hierarchy, and we understand that. It's not like women that all women think that they are all beautiful. But no. But men don't see things like that. We respect the hierarchy as men. We respect men who are higher and more successful than us. A man who is a clerk in a company would look at the man who is the executive, who is the manager, with respect that, oh, this is my boss. This guy is higher than me on all levels. So you accord him that respect. And that is how men go. We understand the ranking system. But in women's case, they don't. They all see themselves as 10s. A woman will see herself and say, oh, she's as beautiful as Beyonce, when she's not even a 2. And it doesn't really work that way. So back to what I was saying. Most of those kind of men have demands. They are very demanding. Don't think that you're just going to be in the house and just be eating all that money, driving all the nice cars, flying on all those trips, and you're not going to have certain things you need to do. Oh, he's going to have a shitload of demands. He's going to have a long list of demands, and those demands have to be met. Otherwise, he will check you. So if you look at it and you analyze it, you would know that being with a successful man or being married to a very successful high value man is not an easy thing. For me, if you ask me, it's actually a job. It's a full-time job. It is a full-time job because you are constantly on your toes. You're constantly trying to improve. You're constantly trying to do things you have to prove yourself to him, because The man can wake up tomorrow and decide that he wants to bring in another woman, or he wants to get another woman, he wants to have a child by another woman, and there's really nothing you can do. Because most of them, that is just how they live. You know, they're that successful. They have a bit of ego about them. Everybody wants them. Anywhere they go, most of the women are looking at them and checking them out. So I just felt it was necessary for me to bring this up, because I thought that a lot of people look at very successful men and think that the standards that those successful men demand, successful and very rich, is the same standards that the average man demands. No. That is why when you meet an average man on his way to the top, when he gets to the top, his mentality changes. His way of thinking changes. His demands will change, because he's on a different level, he's on a different stratosphere. He wasn't too visible to most people, but now he's visible. So it's only normal that what he demands of you will change. And I would say this, women should understand, being with very successful men is a full-time job. It is a full-time job. Don't think you're just going to be eating his money for free. There's no free lunch with them. They would give you anything you want. You go on any trip you want. You will do everything you want. But what they demand in return is a heavy price that you have to pay. Having said that, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.